The sky above the South China Sea was calm, too calm. Beneath that stillness, Captain Brodie Torrance guided his aircraft through the clouds, unaware that this flight would test not only his skill as a pilot, but the very limits of courage and humanity. It was New Year's Eve, and the passengers of Trailblazer 119 were few. Some were heading home, others chasing new beginnings. Brodie, a seasoned pilot, greeted them with his quiet confidence, the kind of calm only years of facing storms can teach. But among the passengers sat one man who didn't belong. Louis Gaspare, a prisoner being extradited under the watch of a U.S. Marshal. His wrists were cuffed, his eyes hollow. Once a soldier, now a convict. To everyone else, he was danger in chains. To Brodie, he was just another life he had to bring home safely. Inside the cockpit, Brodie's co-pilot Samuel Deal monitored the radar. Thick clouds rolled ahead, a storm forming faster than predicted. "We can go around," Deal suggested. Brodie studied the fuel gauge. "We'll lose too much time." "We'll go through," and so they did. The first strike of lightning split the night sky like a wound. The cabin lights flickered, turbulence shook the aircraft violently. Passengers screamed as overhead compartments burst open. A second strike hit, a sound like the heavens cracking apart. Inside the cockpit, alarms blared. Brodie's hands gripped the controls tightly. "We've lost one engine," Deal shouted. Another strike. Sparks burst from the console. "Both engines out." Static filled the radio. No signal, no response, nothing but the roar of wind and thunder. "Brace for impact!" Brodie shouted through the intercom. The aircraft plunged from the clouds, the nose tilting downward, the world spinning in streaks of lightning and rain. In those terrifying seconds, the only thing between life and death was Brodie's resolve. Through sheer will, he spotted a dark shape below, an island. He pulled every ounce of strength from his body. Metal groaned. The ocean neared. "Come on, hold together," he yelled. And then, impact. The plane crashed through trees, sparks flying as metal screamed against earth. When it stopped, there was silence. Brodie opened his eyes to smoke and chaos, but miraculously most of them were alive. He stumbled out into the humid air, rain pouring down. The jungle surrounded them, wild, untamed, and eerily silent. For a moment it felt like salvation, but it wasn't. This was no deserted island. This was Jolo Island, part of a war-torn region in the southern Philippines, territory controlled by armed separatists known for kidnappings and ransom killings. As night fell, Brodie assessed the wreckage. The communication systems were destroyed, the satellite phone cracked, the engines were dead, they were stranded, and the world had no idea where. Brodie gathered the passengers inside the wrecked fuselage. "We stay together," he said. "We find help at sunrise." The only one who didn't look afraid was Louis Gaspare. He sat silently, eyes sharp, body still. Even in chains, he looked like a man who had learned to survive when everything else failed. When morning came, Brodie knew what he had to do. He approached Gaspare. "You were in the military once." Gaspare looked up. "Long time ago." "I need a soldier now," Brodie said. After a pause, Brodie unlocked his cuffs. "You help me get them home." Gaspare nodded slowly. "Then let's move." Together they entered the jungle. The air was thick, the forest alive with the sound of unseen creatures. They followed the remnants of old paths, broken huts, signs of life once lived, now abandoned. Hours turned to days. Hunger gnawed at them, the heat unbearable. Finally, they discovered a small outpost, a crumbling building with a dusty radio. Brodie managed to power it with wires stripped from old batteries. "Trailblazer 119 to any station," he called. "We've crash-landed. Survivors aboard for a long moment," only static replied. Then faint. The jungle turned to darkness once more. Under the heavy rain, the two men crept toward the camp. Brodie's breath came slow and steady. Gaspare's movements were silent, deadly, precise. One guard went down, then another. The night was their ally. Inside the camp, the hostages huddled together. Brodie moved through shadows, whispering, "Stay quiet." He cut their ropes one by one. But then, a shout, a spotlight. Gunfire erupted. Gaspare charged, firing from cover, taking down rebels with calculated precision. Bullets tore through trees. Explosions echoed in the forest. Brodie fought his way to Junmar, tackling him into the mud. The warlord snarled, slashing at him with a machete. Brodie blocked the strike, punching back with raw fury. "You're not taking them!" Gaspare grabbed Brodie's arm, pulling him up. "Go! Get them out." As the hostages fled through the jungle, headlights appeared in the distance. The mercenaries had arrived. Helicopters cut through the rain, firing suppressive rounds into the camp. The rebels scattered, screaming. "Move!" one of the rescuers shouted, as Brodie guided the passengers back to the wrecked plane. The aircraft was half destroyed, but Brodie wasn't ready to give up. He looked at the cockpit, his kingdom of chaos. "Come on, baby," he whispered. "One more flight." He powered the backup systems, coaxing life into dying engines. The turbines sputtered, coughed, then roared to life. "Everyone strap in," he shouted. Gaspare climbed aboard, bloodied but alive. "You're crazy," he said with a grin. "Maybe," Brodie replied. "Hold on." The rebels regrouped, firing wildly as the plane rolled forward. Bullets ripped through the fuselage. "We're not fast enough," Gaspare yelled. "We don't need fast," Brodie said. "We need brave." He pushed the throttles to maximum. The wheels bounced over mud, the jungle racing toward them. The plane rattled, engines screaming, and then, miraculously, it lifted. They soared above the treetops as the jungle below exploded in flames. For the first time in hours, there was silence. Only the soft hum of engines and the sound of survivors crying in relief. They landed on a nearby island under military protection. The passengers stumbled out, exhausted, broken, but alive. Brodie sat in the cockpit, head in his hands, tears mixing with sweat. Gaspare stood near the door, watching the sunrise. "You could come with us?" Brodie said quietly. Gaspare shook his head. "Men like me don't get new beginnings." Brodie extended his hand. "You already earned yours." Gaspare smiled faintly and walked away into the forest, disappearing into the mist. Brodie watched him go, his heart heavy yet full of gratitude. He looked at the sky, clear, golden, endless. For the first time in a long while he felt peace. He had lost control of the plane, but not of himself. He had faced the storm and survived. And as the survivors were airlifted home,